Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we look again at the 1882 and 1845, but it's not to go into the details. We already talked about that in a few videos ago. But today we're going to take a go at cleaning it. So you may remember from the previous video that the steel was, well, a little oxidized, and there were leftovers of glue from stickers from the auction house, for example, a bit of rust, and some paint that for some reason had stuck to the tip of the blade. So what we're going to do is try to remove all of that, get the blade to a decent looking but still historically layered state. And obviously we're also going to clean the hilt, which, if you remember, had weird dust and just, yeah, it was very dirty and very grimy. So what we're going to do for this video specifically is use ballistol for the blade. So it's a steel blade. We should be safe enough using just ballistol. It's not that damaged. So I think we're going to get away with just a little bit of rubbing. For the hilt, it depends. I might, well, obviously I'll clean it with a bit of oil initially, but then I'll perhaps be using Autosol or Brasso, or some kind of very mild abrasive to get the shine back on the hilt. As for the porte-épée, unfortunately, I really don't know what to do. It really is slowly decaying. So I think this is just something that is going to have to be left as still as possible. So apart from these videos, I don't plan on grabbing it any further than you have seen me do. But that's it. Nobody's here for talking. We're here for cleaning. Okay, so we'll get the cleaning. This should be fairly straightforward as far as the blade goes. It might be a little bit more complicated for all the intricate parts of the hilt. So what I'm using is some ballistol, for sure. I might use Autosol, although most of the times I've found for pure steel, it's really not necessary to go with abrasives. So we'll see if it's needed. We have our toothbrush, because oral hygiene is really important, but also because it helps us get into the little crevices and spots there on the hilt, and maybe rub some of the more hard to get in areas like here in the fuller. Obviously some microfiber cloth, and in this case some paper towel, just to eventually wipe off any excess oil. Normally paper towel I try not to use. It might be a little bit, I find microfiber cloths are usually just the best thing, the most delicate, and yeah, the best approach. Also, I'm working on this old leather base. Last time I tried filming, but I didn't have anything, and I ended up pouring a whole bunch of ballistol on the table, and that was a mess. So it's always good to have something to lean on and put your dirty swords on. So we'll start by grabbing a little bit of ballistol. Here we go. I maybe mentioned it in my previous video, but I'm usually quite generous with the ballistol. I'm not too concerned about overdoing it, at least not in the first phase of cleaning. But now I'm putting the cap on because, yeah, we don't want to have accidents. And here we go. Luckily, this blade is not rusty excessively, so there's no need for too much work and strength. Like, you don't need to be too, except for here, you have some spots with rust. So we'll just basically keep rubbing. And hopefully in a couple of minutes it will be clean. And hopefully we can get this. This may need a solvent. I hope not, but yeah, there's paint. Wait, this is throwing focus off. There we go. So this paint residue, I hope, will come off with just the oil. We'll see. So the paint overall seems to be coming off. But I also tried with a little bit of Autosol, and what I noticed is that a lot of black dirt is coming off that wasn't coming off with the oil. So I'm going to quickly give a very, very delicate rub with Autosol to the whole blade, and I'll show you how much grime comes off of the blade. Okay, so we have a little bit of Autosol on the rag, and now we're going to just quickly apply it on both sides of the blade. And you'll probably see a massive amount of dirt show up just by this 10-second rub. There you go. All this grime and dirt was removed by Autosol, and it wasn't so easy to remove with the oil. So I'm gonna keep rubbing delicately with Autosol and see how clean we can get it. And here we are a couple of minutes later. Unfortunately, it's really hard to get the right light conditions, but I think you'll see a definite improvement. So 5 minutes of Autosol rubbing really made a dramatic difference to a blade that honestly I thought was already fairly clean. I didn't consider it overall dirty. So you'll see there's some areas with some stains and markings, but I'm not too bothered by that as long as the sword doesn't have any rust. And there we go. So I will put some more oil on it now, just to keep it nice and clean and preserve it. Also, you can see perhaps the paint is virtually gone. There might be a couple more specks of it that I need to take care of, but overall, yeah, quite an improvement, I think. And before we get to the hilt, I just wanted to quickly show you how much dirt and grime came off of that sword. So there we go. For the hilt, I'll use Autosol and a clean rag. Lots of times you can use Brasso. A lot of people use Brasso or similar products, but those leave very annoying deposits and crevices like here. This is just dirt. I don't think it's Brasso. No, this might actually be Brasso. Look, you see? It's dried off. And so that's really annoying, especially in swords that have complex open work or this kind of stuff, because it can get really hard to remove. Also, I'll show you quickly any first results from cleaning this section that's so dirty. So even just by rubbing it quickly. This is to show that lots of times just a quick clean, I mean, it won't do miracles, but it's better than not doing anything to your sword. Anyway, I'll be deploying the toothbrush and I'll see you in a few minutes. And here we go. After a few minutes of rubbing, we see the blade is finally nice and, well, protected, although not perfect, but who wants it to be perfect? The interesting thing for me is the hilt. You can see what a difference a little bit of cleaning made, especially on the underside. So if you remember how covered it was in dust and grime and deposits, look how beautiful the open work is now. So we can see there were some traces of gilding, I think, but none of it was really removed, in the sense that as I started noticing that there was this layer of gilding over the brass, I kind of started going really slowly with the work and tried not to do any damage. And you can see even the pommel now is nice and clean as far as possible. We still have some of that green deposit, but it's not damaging the sword, so it's not really worth losing too much time or effort and damaging it further. And let's take a look at the 1882, 1845. Well, let's start from the blade. The blade we had already kind of looked at earlier, but I think on this background it's more visible how it changed. You can see, well, nice shiny steel, but it still has its historical personality, like it still retains its imperfections or the signs of time, I feel. So overall, quite an improvement, I would say. Let me get it in focus though, otherwise, there we go. And as far as the hilt goes, I think, I mean, I hope it's visible. and clear right away. What a difference removing that brasso residue and grime and dirt made. It's like new, I would say. If you look at it close up, of course, it's not perfect, so I find that to be nice. But overall, a big improvement. This is the underside. So if you remember, it was you almost couldn't see through the openwork with all the dust and residue. And now you have all the beautiful details of the openwork. But I think it's looking good.